I'm Kassie Ray.
And I'm Dalton Grenier.
And this week on Catatouille, we'll be making bacon wrapped pork tenderloin.
This week's episode is sponsored by pigs.
That's so weird. This is what you're gonna need for your pork tenderloin.
A few leaves of fresh sage, a bundle of asparagus, 1 teaspoon salt, 1 teaspoon pepper, 1 teaspoon garlic powder, 1 tablespoon cornstarch, 1 teaspoon butter, a few sprigs of fresh thyme, 3 pieces of bacon, 1 pork tenderloin, half cup of beef stock, and 2 sprigs of fresh rosemary.
First, we're gonna prepare our meat.
We're gonna start by drying off our pork tenderloin and make sure you just kind of blot it around, try to get all the excess moisture off. That's pretty good.
Once you're done with that, you're gonna start cutting off the silver skin.
So we're gonna start by trimming our silver skin and some of our fat off of our pork tenderloin. And how we're gonna do that is we're gonna poke a small hole, if I can get it, and kind of cut away from you, cutting off all the excess fat things that you don't want.
Now you're gonna wanna cut the ends off, and then with the remaining meat, cut it in half.
Once you cut your tenderloin in half, place one piece in the bag and set it aside. Now we're going to start on our seasoning for our tenderloin. We've got a few fresh herbs here to start off with.
Go ahead and grab a few leaves of sage and a couple sprigs of thyme and rosemary.
So a few tricks to kind of cut our herbs efficiently. We want to make sure that with sage, you just tear off the leaves from the stems. And for thyme, you have kind of this loose sprig. And the best way to do it is you take it backwards and you can pull all the leaves off of the stem in one clean sweep. And that's how you get your thyme off the sprig.
No time at all.
Yeah,
Sorry.
That was good. Now we're going to season our tenderloin with a combination of salt, pepper, and garlic powder. And then after we get done doing that, we're going to roll our tenderloin in our herb combination.
Go ahead and get 2 to 3 pieces of bacon out and lay them out, kind of overlap them so they're ready to be rolled.
And we're using center cut bacon here. If you use too thick of a cut, the pork will come out underdone. And if you use too thin of bacon, your bacon's gonna burn while in the oven. So center cut is just the right thickness for wrapping our tenderloin.
Use wooden toothpicks to secure the bacon and then go ahead and get your pan ready. Go ahead and place it on medium-high heat.
And then we're gonna sear it on all sides, especially the ends.
Nice. Sounds good.
Once your tenderloin's been seared on all sides, we're gonna place it into a pan and we're gonna put it in our oven to let sit for 25 to 30 minutes at 350.
And make sure you save all the extra drippings for our next part. When we come back, we're going to start on our asparagus.
Stay tuned.
The silvery white sheen skin on the outside of a tenderloin is called the silver skin. The silver skin is a thick connective tissue often found on larger cuts of meat like beef, pork, or lamb loin, and the outside of ribs.
We're going to pair our tenderloin tonight with some asparagus.
To prepare the asparagus, go ahead and peel and cut it.
Now we're going to blanch our asparagus and put it into an ice bath. The reason we're going to blanch is because when you put something on a really high simmer or a boil, it's going to cook it ever so slightly. We're going to leave it in there for a few seconds, and the ice bath is immediately going to stop cooking it, so we can immediately put it into our saute pan.
While our asparagus is sauteing, we're gonna start on our stock.
We've got about 1.5 cups of beef stock, and if you watched our previous episode, we're gonna add a slurry, which is just a tablespoon of cornstarch and a tablespoon of water.
Add a sprig of rosemary and salt and pepper into the stock.
We often think of pork as being a very fatty meat, but pork tenderloin is almost as lean as chicken breast and often has more protein.
When we come back, we're gonna start putting all our ingredients together.
Don't miss it.
On a global scale, pork is the most widely consumed meat. The average American will eat equivalent to 28 pigs in their lifetime.
Now it's time to taste.
Let's dig it.
I don't know what to go to first. You go meat?
Yeah, I'm gonna. That's amazing. There's so many flavors going on, I can't even explain it. Pork is really tender. I think the sauce and the stock does a really great job of accentuating the herbs within the pork that we rolled it in.
Would have seasoned the asparagus a little more, but yeah, I've never had to peel asparagus, so that was new to me. But I do. It's not too soft either when you chew into it. It's a really nice crunch.
It's kind of like a fresh, additive to the dish, which, the pork could be a little heavy, but it really, even with the potatoes as your side or any kind of starchy side, it's not overpowering. And it kind of looks a little overpowering, but honestly, it's just a great all-around bite. But yeah, overall, fantastic dish, very successful. I would cook this again in a heartbeat. Not too expensive, honestly, if you're looking to kind of impress a lady, maybe a night in, this is definitely a worthwhile meal to fix.
I would give this a 4 out of 5 pieces of bacon. It was really good.
I'd say about 4.5 out of 5 pieces of bacon, honestly. I feel like you kind of you cover a lot of bases in this dish, and the best part is that it all ties together, and there's a lot of different textures and flavors, but none of it's overpowering, and I think that's the most important part, especially at all the dishes we've cooked here on Catatouille. I think this is one of the most balanced and delectable dishes in my opinion, so very good.
If you'd like to make this at home, pause the video now to write down the grocery list. This recipe, with all the ingredients you buy, will make 6 servings and cost nearly $27.
That's all for this week on Catatouille.
Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, or on KNWT Channel 8. For previous episodes of Catatouille, click here.
For the most recent episode of Gen 2, click here.